Hi, Tim Stokes here from Profit Transformations, and today's webinar is on how to set your business up to run on autopilot without a worry in the world. Hope you're excited by what I'm going to be sharing with you today. It is an exciting thought to think that you may never have to work in your business ever again. I know it has been for the clients that I've helped achieve that outcome. It's like an extraordinary quality of life that kicks in when you no longer have to turn up for work on your regular hours and you can choose to work. Working becomes optional when your business is running on autopilot. So let me start by talking about some of the contents of this webinar. The major challenges to overcome, we'll talk about what they are and identify those. Why you must reach a critical KPI for your business to be ready to run on autopilot. Unfortunately, the majority of business owners haven't reached this critical KPI, and that's why they're often running their busyness. They're constantly busy. How to be certain your business is operating safely when you're not there. The myths of setting up an autopilot business. I've heard a lot of rumors and discussions and points of view that you can't set a business up to run without you, but you definitely can. So we'll explore what some of those are, how many employees you will need for your business to be on autopilot. Now, different industries have different figures, so I'll do my best to help you to feel confident with a goal in mind as to where you need to be with your business. You may have already achieved that goal. You may be ready to step out as far as number of employees. And the 7 key ingredients of an autopilot business, 7 steps if you like. Now, this webinar isn't about a quick fix, magic wand happens as a result of today and next week or next month your business will be running without you. I think that's impossible. I think it takes very solid, clear steps to follow, like a recipe if you like, which I'll talk about in this webinar. And they take a number of months to put in place, but put it this way, in 9 months, 12, 18 months, your business can definitely be at a point to run without you if you have a certain amount of momentum right now or your business is at a reasonable size. If you've got 5, 7, 10 or 20 employees, then you're probably going to be able to do it in that time frame without much effort, following the ingredients that I'll be sharing with you today. So it's not a quick fix promise that I'm giving you. I don't believe in those in business. I follow a J-curve growth with the work that I do with clients so that they start slow, put the foundations in, and then the business growth starts to accelerate over time. And it's the same with setting a business up on autopilot. Who this webinar is for? Business owners, especially wanting lifestyle success, not just in business. I often meet business owners that other people would consider successful. They might have 2 or 3 businesses running with 50 employees or a couple hundred employees, but often they're not enjoying a wonderful, happy, relaxed, pressure-free life outside of running their business. So it's for those people. It's for business owners who want to stop thinking about work after work and not give it a thought at all anymore. It's for business owners sick and tired of being mentally and physically tired. It's for business owners who want to take 2 to 12 month holidays anywhere in the world, anytime they choose, not just quiet times, but anytime, because they just can. They simply can have that choice in their life. It's for business owners who want to stop doing repetitious work completely. And lastly, it's for business owners wanting a shortcut to being a true entrepreneur, where working is optional and you may have 2 or 3 businesses and you don't really work hard in any of them. And life's fantastic. That's what this webinar is for. People that want any or all of these different things put together. Background summary, who am I to be talking on this? Well, I've owned 7 businesses starting out in 1983, long time in running my own business over the years, and had all the challenges of running a business with the lack of time or money or staff issues, or how do I grow my business, how do I get enough leads, all those sort of things, dealing with competitors. Been there and still doing it, you could say. Invested over $120,000 in my own education. I've been an advocate for education. To me, it just makes sense. If I want to learn how to do something, why would I think I can figure out how to do something I've never done before on my own and not get any value from other people? Invited to become a business coach in 1997. I was selling at higher prices than my competitors, making fantastic profits, having a great life. And then I went into about the hardest profession there is in the world, becoming a business coach in 1997. Many years before, it became a very, very trendy, very, very common thing. I used to meet business owners and they'd say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "I'm a business coach." And they'd say, "What on earth is that?" That's what I got for about the first 5 years. I never heard of it, didn't know what it was, strange concept. Why would you have a business coach? They used to say. Now it's a little bit different. Been featured in My Business Success magazine nine times, it might be 10 times. Business Acumen magazine 2010 as a feature. Been in the Sydney Morning Herald, been on radio numerous times, all those sort of fun things. And 2007, I had my proudest moment, you could say, where I systematized 10 years of solutions of setting up businesses and solving their growth problems and challenges and helping them to grow very, very rapidly on that J-curve growth. So I have all the measuring tools, planning and templates, not all the templates and not all the systems, but definitely all the measuring tools and the strategies needed to grow any business to pretty much any level. So let's explore the myths of having an autopilot business. You can't trust staff to work if you're not there. Heard that one a few times, you could say. That's a big one. No one can run your business as good as you. It's just not safe to step out of running it. You don't know what staff are doing if you're not there yourself. You can't find a good manager without paying them a fortune or them becoming a competitor and starting a business in opposition. These are some of the myths that I've heard over the years that I like to explore. So the short answer for these before we go into it in more depth in the webinar, and let's explode some of those. When people say you can't trust people, I say, well, yeah, but you can trust numbers. And most things, the majority of things that nearly every employee you ever have can be quantified into some number that you can trust they're doing a good job because you can see that number and see that on a regular basis, like once a week. And you can even quantify what admin people do, and that's something I talk about as well. So salespeople, admin people, accounts people, technical people, all of what they do as activities can be quantified, and therefore you can see they're doing a great job, so you can trust the numbers without actually having to be there in your business. Run it like you. Well, my question to you is, how do you know someone else can't run it as well as you? There's a subject called management. And what is management? And by hiring a great manager, it's like me, if you gave me a job, I pretty much guarantee I could increase your profits 50 to 300% within 6 to 9 months, because that's what I do. I specialize in management strategies that grow profits fast, without even talking about lead generation as well. That's what management is as a subject. Some people say it's not safe. People and businesses, I think, are very predictable. So they say it's not safe to step out of your business. I believe it is, because businesses and people can be and are very predictable, like everything, when you know how. It's true. So we'll talk about how business can become predictable. How can you predict the growth of your business? How can you predict when you need to hire people, when you have too much work, too many sales, or not enough cash? How can you predict those things? I'll show you a little bit later. What are staff doing when you're not there? Well, I say improve your people skills. It's something that I find is the least developed skill out of all skills in business that are essential, is to understand people. Some people are extremely trustworthy in life. Some people are extremely untrustworthy. My question is, can you pick the difference within minutes of meeting that person? And that's something you can just develop as a skill. So you know what your people are doing from that insight into trust, but you also know it from having KPIs in place. Find a good manager. Some people say you can't find one that can run the business as well. Well, my question is, do you know what you're looking for? I found a lot of people wouldn't know a good general manager, even if they interviewed them. And just because they have a good resume, good experience, does not mean they're a good manager. And I've had a lot of clients testify to that, where I picked it that the person they called a general manager was, they thought they were great, and within sometimes 1 or 2 minutes, I recognized they weren't great and they were actually quite poor, and they were holding their business back or hurting the business. In every case where they realized that themselves over sometimes 2, 3, 5, 6 months, and then put that person off, their business improved radically and rapidly very soon after, just from putting that person off, because they were suppressing the energy of the business and actually holding it back. And that's something that is a people skill that I have and talk about and share, is how to identify what a great manager is. So when my autopilot journey began, how did I start thinking about how to set a business up on autopilot? Well, that insight into Rupert Murdoch's management systems and the fact he wasn't even in the same country as where each of his 15 or so different independent newspaper offices was running, that was a pretty interesting insight into what autopilot businesses are all about. But it started for me back with an office fit-out tradesman in Sydney. I met this gentleman. He came to my free seminar that I ran a lot of, and wanted to buy a video store. He told me at the end of the seminar. He said, "Tim, that was really great. I'd really like to do some training with you. I'm about to buy a video store. When I do, I'll give you a ring." And I said, "Why do you want to buy a video store?" He thought it was a really exciting, great business, and because he thought, I can hire simple, staff that aren't super qualified. You don't need to hire people to got a trade and all that sort of thing to run a video store. And he said it'd be a great business for me not have to work in, because that's my ultimate goal. And I kind of talked him out of that and said, "Why don't you buy a kitchen renovation company instead?" And he questioned why. And I said, "Well, I've already had a client who had spectacular success and hired 9 people in 6 months from the strategies we put in place to grow it really fast. So I'd recommend you start thinking about a kitchen renovation company instead." So anyway, after a bit of discussion, he said, "Yeah, that sounds like a fair thing." And I told him what to look for in businesses that were for sale. And over a period of time, he did a bit of research. A couple of months later, he said, "I think I found a couple. What are your thoughts?" And I said, "Yeah, this one looks really good." It was advertised for $110,000, and he ended up buying it for $70,000 with some of the skills I gave him. And vendor financed half of it. So he only actually paid $35,000 of his own money, which was fantastic. Then over the next 12 months, I helped him to fully systematize it and helped him to hire a general manager because the management structure was in place. And this guy used to be a manager for Coca-Cola, and he'd been put off because he was old in their eyes at age 52. He was financially independent, as you can imagine. He was being paid the big bucks, and he was looking for something to do. And so my client interviewed him. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I don't know. Ask him why he thinks he can run a kitchen company." And he had a really good answer. He said, "You've got systems, have you?" "Yes." "KPIs?" "Yes." "Are they including all these areas of systems?" I said, and the client said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I've just got to facilitate the systems and the technical know-how, and your business model suits me running it." And we said, "Okay." Anyway, we put him on. He only asked for a $38,000 salary. When we didn't offer it to him, we said, "What do you want to be paid?" He said, $38,000 will do me." And incredibly low figure. So my client said yes, and 6 weeks is all it took him. 6 weeks, he was up to speed with the systems from the business owner's training, and the business owner stepped out, took a 2-month holiday, came back and didn't work in it for 2 years, had a great life, had an awesome life, and lots of holidays, lots of fun, lots of hobbies, got into property development, learning about property. That was his hobby. Wealth creation became his hobby, you could say. And then his wife and him decided he wanted to move to Queensland and thought he'd sell his business, and he sold it for $350,000 as a business asset under management, ready for franchising. So 10 times what he had paid for it within a couple of years. That's a pretty good ROI, I think. And then I got excited. I thought, well, how many other businesses can I do this? So I've been through the process. Well, it's easy when you've done it once. And next company I worked with was Stone Floor Restorer, and went from 1 employee to 5. He decided one day he wanted to move to Collinsville. His business was running pretty smoothly and still growing, but he said to me one day, "Tim, I want to move to Collinsville in Queensland. That's nowhere near an airport. I can't work commute from there to Sydney. I don't want to." He said, "I'm renovating houses. I've got other things I want to do. Do you think my business would work without me?" I said, "Yeah, I think it would, but you don't have the volume in size to have a general manager. You can't afford a general manager with only 5 employees. So I think you're going to have to spend some time mentoring a supervisor in your business, and you'll be right." That worked extremely well. In fact, he only talked to his supervisor for about half an hour, 40 minutes a week, and was making $120,000 a year for about an hour's work a week. Pretty good business, you could say. So that got me excited, thinking, wow, what else can I do? And then met an electrician in Townsville, and he said, I'm working 80 hours a week. I have no life. My wife told me I have to work with you because she's sick of all the vans parked on the front lawn. I've got no life and work crazy hours, and I'm still working nights, and that's it. I got to do something, and you look like you're it. 10 months later, he bought a few properties in Cloncurry, because when I met him, he wasn't interested in properties, probably because he was too busy. And then he said, do you think my business will run without me? I said, yeah, take a week off and find out. And a week later he said, it's actually making more money without me there. And I said, yeah, that's not surprising. That often happens, I've found. So that's what he did. He moved to Cloncurry, renovated houses, was there for a year or so, and then decided to buy a motorhome. So he tripped around Australia, did 3 laps of Australia, and Tasmania included, and in his motorhome, and had an awesome life. Travelled for half a day, homeschooled the kids for the other half a day. And he came through Brisbane one day, and I said, you got to let me take a photo. He wouldn't let me put it all over the web, but anyway, I can put it into webinars. And this is him. This is the family. When they were travelling in their nice big motorhome, they had electric sides that expanded out. And I think that's an awesome way to live. I don't know, for 3 years, but it was certainly a fun way to get around for a while. So that's the sort of thing you can be doing when you set your business up to run on autopilot. You can be traveling, perpetual traveling, or anywhere in the world really, and just enjoying life, just having lots of fun. And that's what he was doing. That was back in about 2004. That goal was achieved for him, and spent many years just not working in his business at all. It was still running without him, still paying him an income, and ticking over really well. So setting your business up on autopilot for your business. First of all, it requires a general manager or a supervisor. You got to have one of those, which means your volume of turnover has to be at a certain level. It might have to be with 7 employees. I typically recommend 7 or 8 as the minimum, which means you'll have one admin person at least. I found you need at least 5 income producers, which means if you're a service business, it might be tradies or something like that, but you need to have at least 5, because then if you lose one, it doesn't hurt you too much. And then if you lose one, you lost 20% of your turnover, which doesn't hurt you too much until you hire the next one to replace them. But when you're down to 4, that's a big chunk. It's too much to lose in one go, and you don't have the volume of turnover typically to pay a general manager or a non-income producer. So sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 15, where you might need one salesperson that generates multiple $1 million worth of turnover per year. And that one salesperson, your business is hinging on one salesperson, which I think is a bit of a risk. So you usually got to get a couple of salespeople. So it depends on the industry you're in, where you don't want to be too dependent on just one person. So having enough technical employees is critical, so you can get the manager by the volume of turnover with good margins. You can afford to pay that manager, which might be 80, 100, 120,000 a year, about that sort of figure. It begins by understanding what management is as a subject, which I'm going to focus on a lot in this webinar. Management is not just about industry-specific or technical knowledge. That greatly helps, yes, but some industries don't require that in a general manager. Just to give you an idea, management is such a big subject, and business owners often feel they're good managers, but I'd say, well, can you run someone else's business completely outside of your industry? So if you're a service business owner, can you run someone else's service business? And that's what management is about. It's not about a technical knowledge of how to build cabinets because you're a kitchen renovator. That's got nothing to do with the technical aspect. That's not management. That's more technical knowledge, if you like. It's not management knowledge, it's technical. So here's a mind map of what I think are the management skills that you need to cover, so you have a very broad understanding of what management actually is as a subject. So starting on the left, it's understanding average dollar sale values and tracking things like, well, leads. Where are all our leads coming from? What are our conversion rates by leads, by lead source, and by conversion rates by salespeople? It's tracking number of sales in a week. So it is a combination of 3 core skills. It is measuring skills and people skills and system skills, and then there are subcategories under all this that we need to be monitoring and have a handle on. It's like for systems, we need to have systems for converting leads, which is partly selling skills, partly other digital systems. We need to be very, very good at documenting how do we actually sell? What's the incoming phone call system look like? What's the face-to-face sales system look like? What are our lead generation systems, our logo, our email templates, pre-written, already ready to use, our admin systems, production, finance, recruitment, team building, and induction systems. These are the handles that you need to have. You've got to have a handle on all these different areas of systems, and then people skills is broken into subcategories as well. So this is a subject of management that goes across every industry. This is what I've been learning, you could say, for 33 years, is how to understand all these different facets of running a business. Whatever the industry, all businesses, or not all, but nearly all businesses need all of these understandings of how to run a business successfully. So that's management as the subject. So there are 3 core skills that I just touched on there with how to be a great manager, and people skills, measuring skills, and system skills are those 3. We need to be excellent at all 3 of these, and then all 3 start to integrate over time. So when you measure, you need to share the numbers with the people, just like you do in any team sport. You can't just know the numbers as a coach. You've got to be telling the individuals what their numbers are. And so many business owners keep all that a secret. They don't say, salespeople, here are your conversion rates. They don't say, technical people, here's the gross margin we made on these jobs. And they're lacking some huge opportunities for improving their business and setting it up to run on autopilot by not getting into a lot of number crunching to share with their team, their people. And people need to be involved with looking at the numbers, developing the numbers, and also then recognizing the need for systems. When you show people that things aren't going as well as they should with your targets, your KPIs, your benchmark, then those same people will typically say, boss, we need more systems. So there's an integration that happens, a beautiful synergy that happens when you combine all 3 separate skills. Some businesses are very systems orientated, but they haven't developed their people. They don't understand really good attitudes. They're not getting people to meet regularly and talk about systems. So they may have systems, but they're like 3 separate subjects as against integrating all 3. And that's when magic starts to happen. So combining these skills transforms busyness into high profit margin businesses running on autopilot. That's what happens when you put all 3 together. And if you think about it, McDonald's actually did all 3 of these over decades. They started with expensive, highly experienced, highly skilled chefs, looked at what they did, turned what they did as activities into a systematic way of doing something, measured it to see that the system was working, and then slowly over many years simplified the business and dumbed down the task so that teenagers can run a multi-million-dollar turnover business where the owner doesn't work in it at all. Now, they don't sell every type of food in the marketplace. They found their niche. And that's sometimes what is a great thing to do. Sometimes some businesses, they're doing things that are just too hard to leverage their way out of it. Sometimes you've got to simplify it. And it doesn't really matter if you don't do everything people in your industry do if you don't have to work and your business runs without you. It doesn't really matter what your business does then. So seeing your business as an asset that can run without you being in it, that's the mindset. That's the goal that we're trying to achieve with an autopilot business. All right, so what I want to do is just give you an insight into some really core specific aspects of the people in the measuring side. I won't go too much into systems here, but just the people in the measuring side. So you can start to see in more depth what these certain skills are that we need to learn on these areas. So essential people skills in management, I believe, are identifying great attitude people before hiring them. This is something I put a lot of emphasis on when I train my clients, because it's not a very well developed skill where in a space of 3 to 5 questions you can actually identify people that have a really good attitude or people that don't. And that's just the beginning of the recruitment process, is identifying people with great attitudes. Another essential people skill is selling at higher prices than competitors. If you're winning sales at the lowest price, then unfortunately you're missing out on some, massive profit increase opportunities by not having the skill of selling at higher prices than competitors. And it's something that clients are often dumbfounded at how often they're winning sales being the most expensive when people have had quotes that are sometimes $5,000 or $10,000 cheaper, but they still went ahead with the client that I've trained. And a lot of people think that's impossible, but I could give you a list of 100 business owners, say ring every one, and you try to tell them that's impossible and see what they say. You can absolutely do this, but it does take some really specific training on how to do that. But I think this is an essential skill in management. Effective teaching skills, and including what you need to do as an outcome from a skill that you're training people. I can say, hey, do this, do this, do this. I'm giving you how to, but going into what and why takes 2 or 3 or 4 times longer to teach. And that's what is an effective skill in business, is teaching people what outcome they need to be looking for from a skill that you're teaching them, and why that outcome is really, really important. So when you start including what and why with your training, it takes a little bit longer initially, but your people will do exactly what you want to the letter for years, and you won't be coming back the next day saying, that's not how I told you to do it. And that's that how is one ingredient, but the what and why is even more important. Identifying aptitudes in people before hiring them. You've heard the saying, a round peg and a round hole. Well, that's what aptitudes are all about, and I'll talk about that next, coming up soon. Leadership skills. The first principle of leadership is succession planning by making yourself redundant and replacing yourself with someone else. Now, most people are not replacing themselves very effectively in a business environment, and the business owner ends up fragmenting across so many different roles in a business, and they're not really making themselves redundant. That's often how they get so busy. They haven't made themselves redundant in certain areas of the business, and knowing how to do that is a leadership skill. Deep understanding of people, essential for teaching. The more I understand about people, the better I get at teaching and training them, and I get better and better results because my skills with people improves all the time. And having a high emotional intelligence, it's called EQ. I won't go into that here, but it's your ability to function and handle pressure and tough environments. And there are certain roles in a business, like a general manager, that you want someone that has a high EQ, high emotional intelligence. And that's a great people skill to have, is to recognize and understand that subject. When people have that, when you're thinking about hiring them. The best people skill to study is something that's been around and was identified 2,400 years ago. This is not new. It's been around for a long time. When people are typically either outgoing or reserved, if they're outgoing, they're like a runner. They can change direction easily. When people are more reserved, they're more like, thoughtful, methodical, not in a rush kind of people. Now, people tend to be more outgoing or more reserved. Now, straight away, understanding this helps you to understand what's best in your business. Do you need a role where there's a lot of change always constantly happening, or do you want someone to stick to it like glue and keep doing what it is that their role entails? And that's where this helps you to understand that. And are they more task or people orientated? Are they better at working on their own, or are they better at working with people? So when you get to ask yourself these two questions, is this person more outgoing, or I'll ask you, business owner, are you more outgoing or more reserved? If you're more outgoing, you're going to be what we call a dominant or influence-based profile. And if you're outgoing and more independent, more task-oriented, you'll be dominant. If you're outgoing and people-oriented, you'll be people-oriented. That's called an influence profile. And if you're task and reserved orientated, you'll be a compliant profile. And if you're reserved and people-oriented, you'll be steady. Now, this is called disc profiling. Now, you may have heard of this before, but I find that it's been very poorly introduced to the marketplace. So people have heard of it, they think they understand it, and then I say, well, can you pick the disc profile of 80% of people on the phone when they ring your business within the first 5 or 10 seconds? And I haven't met a person yet that says yes to that, apart from people that have been through my training, and that's what I train them on. By using disc profiles in sales, your conversion rates can double or triple. By using it for recruitment, you'll put round pegs in round holes and you won't have to put people off again. By understanding it for leadership, you'll know the best people to put into supervising or managing roles because they have an aptitude for that role. It takes so much guesswork out of running a business, it's not funny. And that's where people may know of disc profiles, but they've never learned a lot of those things I've just talked about. So they're just missing out on a huge benefit and opportunity of business by understanding it. And I'll give you an example. Here's a mechanic, and his profits jumped by 50% in 1 week. He said, by disc profiling my team and talking about it in a team meeting, my guys' productive hours went up by 50% the next week. Now, this wasn't some just miraculous thing that happened out of the blue. Jeff had been frustrated with the fact that his team weren't that productive, and he'd been talking about it for 4 months and still couldn't get any increase. And I said, Jeff, you need to use the tools I give you of how to run a team meeting. Here's exactly how to do that. Here's what you talk about, and disc profiling before you do. Here's a disc profile. I'll teach you about disc profiles, learn about it, read about it from my systems, and then introduce it and watch what happens. He did. And it stayed up after many, many weeks as well. And some clients that I work with where they've just learnt disc profiles from me, build tripled his sales in 30 days with a $60,000 per month increase. A window manufacturer increased conversion rates from 19% to 41%, added $1.4 million to his turnover in a matter of about 3 months of training. A real estate agent increased his sales 357% in 1 month from this. A cabinet maker turned a loss of $126,000 or $400,000 net profit positive in 10 months. And an engineering firm added $400,000 to their sales in 1 month. And all of these were achieving this from a very strong emphasis in a training session that I did on understanding disc profiles. So it's one of the best things you can learn in business, and as a people skill, it's about the best thing you can learn in business is this one subject. Let's talk about measuring to manage your business. Winning work needs to balance with doing the work that's been won and being paid for the work, i.e. cash banked in your business each week. So a business is like these 3 core areas, if you like. You've got to win work, that's called sales and marketing. You've got to do the work, I call that production. And then obviously you need to get paid for the work. Now, business owners tend to be really good at one of the 3 of those. Can you guess which one that is? If you said production, that's pretty much the one. So typically business owners haven't attended sales training multiple times. If sales training once, that's often uncommon and paying for it. So that's not something they're typically skilled at. They typically haven't paid to learn marketing. They may have paid for marketing, but they haven't paid to learn marketing. So sales is not typically their strong point. They're typically very good at production because they've been in the industry for many years, and getting people to pay on time regularly, consistently, without complaints and without having to keep asking them, that's often not something that they're so great at. So typically businesses are great at one of these 3. Now, what I say is that you need to track the dollar figure for each of these 3 if you want to set your business up to run on autopilot. And the dollar value is like the length of this leg each week. So by looking at these figures each week, or your business may need to do this monthly, depends, but let's say weekly. Let's say you got a business that's turning over $1 million a year. Well, if you divide that $1 million turnover on a profit and loss statement by, say, 50 weeks in a year, there's about $20,000 worth of acceptance you would expect to be coming in, obviously on average, but we want to be tracking that to say, well, did we get $20,000 worth of go-aheads worth of sales in the week? The next thing we need to ask is, well, how are we going with getting through the work, which is the outcome of the sale, the production? Have we done $20,000 worth of work in production in the last week? And have we banked $20,000 in the last week from invoices sent out? Now, from the sales acceptance to the actual being paid might be a week, might be a month, might be 6 months. It doesn't matter how long apart that time frame is. What matters is, are we getting the same dollar value of all 3 legs on a regular, consistent basis? That's the question. So if we had $1 million business and that's about $20,000 a week, and we just something wonderful happened, maybe the leads took off or something, or conversion rates improved from sales training, and you just sold $30,000 worth of work, well, you're now understaffed, aren't you? Because your capacity is $20,000 a week and you've just sold 50% more than your capacity. You need probably 50% more production people. If you've got 8 people in production, you need 4 more, and you need them quick. So this is where your business starts to become predictable by measuring these different legs, and measuring and monitoring all 3 weekly identifies early causes of challenges and stress that you'll probably have in your business. The most common stresses I find in business are too much work, i.e. sales leg too long, putting the stool out of balance, not enough work, which is over capacity. So you might have the ability to do $20,000 worth of work, but you've just been selling $16,000 or $12,000 or $10,000 worth of work for the last 2 or 3 weeks, so you're overstaffed. So that's a stress point. And the third point that a lot of business owners are stressing about is not enough cash in the bank. And that's often because work hasn't been finished or it was underpriced, things like that. When you start measuring all three legs, your business becomes very predictable. So when you're not there and it's running on autopilot, you can see early trends that start to show you your business is out of balance. Now, if you've undersold, and this, I saw a lot of builders fail in business because of this, and building renovation industries and things like that, because they don't track sales as a dollar figure of acceptance. They don't track how much work is in progress and getting through as a dollar figure. And what happens sometimes in a lot of service businesses is they're overstaffed and they don't know it and they're not monitoring it. And by they're not monitoring it, they're overstaffed for multiple weeks. If they saw the early trends, then they'd know they're overstaffed and they wouldn't be consuming a lot of cash, waiting for business to pick up or hoping. And hoping is probably one of the worst things you can run a business on. You hope to get sales, you hope to get clients, you hope to get enough work, you hope people will pay you on time. It's just not a very smart emotion to run your business. You definitely can't run a business on autopilot with hope. Here's how I show business owners how to make their business very, very predictable by using that principle. Lack of seeing early signs is the biggest problem, where you might have a bad employee, you might have a lack of work or too much work. It's not seeing the early signs is the big problem. So what we need to do is measure people's behavior, and that's the key. In sales, it means that we need to track conversion rates, because that's the variable of how people are feeling, how happy they are, and unhappy, stress and things like that. In production, it's tracking timesheets, percentage of timesheet or percentage of their hours recorded every week, and tracking gross margins of what work they're doing. In accounts, it's overdue receivables. Now, these are just some of the different measuring of people behavior keys that you need to have in business if you're going to think about setting it up and running on autopilot. Now, I've never seen any business actually track these things, let alone some of the others I go into, and I hear of horrible outcomes of people trying to put managers in. Or I've got a general manager. I'm like, well, why have you got a general manager if you're still working in it? Oh, well, they do other things, I do some things. And I said, have you got these KPIs in place? No. Well, how are you managing a business and keeping your finger on the pulse of growing it if you're not tracking these things? You can't do it. You're flying blind. You're guessing. You're hoping. You're wishing. You're worrying. You're stressing. So here's where I step in with one of my measuring tools. This is a tool where it's tracking those three legs. You got sales, you got production, you got cash in, and on the left you got a dollar scale, which is relevant to the wide bands of the green, the wide band, vertical band of the blue, and the wide band of black. They're all dollar figures that have been graphed vertically against that scale on the left, based on the numbers being put in the boxes on the right. So by putting in numbers for each week, we get a graphical representation of how that business is going. So if you look at the black, well, the cash is probably averaging about where it needs to be, because that benchmark or capacity of the business as far as turnover is that dotted line. If you look at the cash, it's a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down. Okay, so it's probably on par. Look at the production, the wide blue vertical bars, of four of those, and you see that, yeah, they're pretty much tracking around benchmark as well. Now we look at the sales. We're a little bit under. And if you look down lower, you see week numbers, week 9, 10, 11, 12. So week 9, we're a little bit under where we want capacity. But then week 10, we're spot on capacity. Week 11, we're over capacity. Week 12, we're over capacity. And that says we're increasing our sales. That says we're probably needing to hire people. That's one indicator. But then look at the narrow green band, and that's leads. And look at the leads increase. Bang, 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 bang. 4 weeks in a row, accelerating increase. Man, that says that if leads are up, that means sales will be up, which means more work. We need to hire someone, and you need to do it right now. So if this was your business and I just saw these graphs for week 9, 10, 11, 12, I'd say, so you've already got the recruitment ad running, haven't you? You're hiring people, aren't you? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Well, look at your numbers. Your numbers are predicting an increase in sales. You need to hire people because you're going to be understaffed. You're accelerating how much work you're getting by, that's probably about a 30% increase. Your turnover is increasing about 30% in the next 2 to 6 months. You need to hire people right now. And that's what I mean by making your business predictable from just understanding numbers. So this tool tracks trends over time and gives you a comparison of differences week to week. making your business very predictable. And this is a tool that you can print out and take into a team meeting and talk about numbers with your employees. Very, very critical thing to talk about numbers in weekly team meetings. Other measuring tools that measure each of the legs in depth feed into this one. This is just a summary overview. And having other tools that sort of generate a lot more numbers that then this summarizes is critical. So over on the right, you'll see it says number 12. So week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then a 12. And you can see there's 5 numbers that have been inputted into this tool. And then that graphically shows the last 4 weeks. Every time you add a row of numbers, it drops off a previous week. So it's always showing you the last 4 weeks as a trend. And then the 4 weeks add into 1 month. And then you can see 2, 3, 4, 5 month trend as well from looking at that as well. So this is how you make a business very predictable. This is how you can step out and your manager is populating tools like this, looking at the numbers and then saying, yep, business is good, or gee, my boss is going to kick my butt. Because if I looked at these numbers and you hadn't already run an ad to recruit someone after week 3, I would have said, what are you doing? Your business is about to become extremely busy. You'll become a headless chook because you'll have to start doing a lot of work in your business because you're going to be that busy. And if you pay overtime, you've lost profit because you're paying time and a half or double time on overtime to try and get through the work, which means you'll be making a loss for maybe a month from having too much work that you had to pay overtime rates on where you didn't price that into the time and a half for the pricing when you sold it. So it creates problems when your business starts to grow and you're not aware of it when it's happening. So this is just one of the tools that I like to show business owners that you can really set up and really start automating a business and running it on autopilot and step out safely, worry-free, because you know your business is being run really well and you can see from numbers what the activity summary of the business actually is as well. So I hope you like that one. Food for thought. So the most critical KPI or goal for an autopilot business is one that I find that 90% of businesses are not anywhere near, and that's part of the setting up your business on autopilot training that I offer, getting your businesses up to that point. And that is your business's net profit margin. Now what I found is from sheer experience of working with hundreds of businesses and talking about this, looking at their P&L statements, I found that when they get below 10%, on a turnover of $700,000 or more, then I would deem that as low in net profit margin, even though it's very common. The majority of businesses, in fact 90% of businesses, are probably under 10% net margin. At a turnover of $700,000, I consider that too low. And you need to be at 15% minimum if you want to set your business up to run with autopilot without you and be able to afford to pay a manager with some surplus cash or profit. So 15% is the minimum that I want to see clients aim for. A low percentage means cash reserves will be low, and affording a general manager, that's going to be a real challenge, that you won't be able to afford them. Even if you're turning over $1 million or $2 million, you usually don't have enough surplus cash when your net margins are like 3 and 5% that I commonly see for a lot of businesses at multiple $1 million turnover. You're just stressed, you're worried, you haven't got any time because you just can't afford to pay another employee or two, and that's due to high turnover, low margins. We need to change that. So let's talk about how we do that. So increasing net profit margins, well, the best way is measuring, because measuring leads to confident certainty of your decisions that actually make rapid improvements in your business almost instantly. So imagine a business that's turning over $1 million, and it's the old 80-20 rule, where 80% wasn't that profitable and 20% was. So to look something like this, let's say that out of our 80% of our turnover, or $800,000 of turnover, was a 3% net profit margin. That means it would be generating about $24,000 when you multiply that out in net profit per year. Let's say 20% was quite profitable, and at 12%, that means it was also generating $24,000 a year. So it's like saying divide your business into 80-20, and it's like working 4 days a week to make the same money as what you do 1 day a week, and that's quite common. And what you may see in a profit and loss, or what you would see in a profit and loss statement if you looked at a report, would be this net profit of $48,000 when you add the two together. But unfortunately, a profit and loss statement is not a great tool. It's a good tool, but even a month it goes up and down like a yo-yo month to month. It doesn't actually show you things like this and what the breakdown is. It'll show you the summary. It'll show you $48,000 net profit for the month, but it won't show you that 80% of it was at 3% net margin and 20% was at 12% net margin. So what do you do with these figures once you know them? That's the question. If these were your figures for your business, what would you be thinking right now? You might be thinking, gee, that 12% is kind of nice. Gee, wish I did a lot more of that. You might be thinking, 3%, gee, why am I getting out of bed? 3%, you virtually break even. If anything, you're probably almost making a loss out of 3. That's just terrible. So what I found is that it's not hard to change the dynamics of this, even without increasing turnover. Instead of talking about lead generation, getting more leads and getting more customers and hiring more staff, well, unfortunately, net profit margins often go down as turnover goes up. So what I prefer to do is say, well, let's introduce some better strategies. Let's test pricing. Let's see if we can actually get your prices up a little bit, because I'm going to teach you how to convert more leads into sales anyway. So therefore, we can get away with a bit of a price rise. And let's try and swap these around. Let's say specializing in on your website of what that narrow band of your services is. So if you're only doing 20% of your turnover at 12% net, let's try and make that 20%, 80% by saying specializing in. By saying, all right, well, let's specialize in this one that we're making really good margin on. Let's focus on that. And let's try and get a little bit of a price rise in there as well, as we're getting volume up. By specializing in it and getting better at our conversion rates, it's not uncommon to see this sort of thing happen with my clients, where their average of 4.8% net profit margin, we categorize their business into types of services, focused on them, and try to get a high volume of what they made the best margin on, and then try and sneak a price rise in and get more efficient at it as well. And then often they're doing a little bit of the old service, but instead of doing it at 3%, we're doing it at 5% minimum. And when we do this is what tends to happen. We're often nearly tripling the profits of businesses without even increasing customers, without increasing turnover, just from internally measuring and identifying profit leaks and profit opportunities, a little bit of price rise with better conversion rates. And this is the sort of things that is happening. We're seeing huge increases in profitability in a business without actually spending any money or spending hours and hours a week doing online marketing and paying people that don't do a good job, all that sort of nonsense. We're avoiding all that. We're not doing it. Because once you get this increase, like I'm showing you here, if you've got another $80,000 net profit and cash in the bank, do you think you could actually get some extremely good marketers now and then take your business to $5 million turnover in a couple of years? Yeah, you definitely can. So I prefer to get margins up, and that's the beginning of an autopilot business. And then with margins up, there's more cash in the bank. With more cash, then you can build size if you want. Do that after. So here's a case study where Milton, who's the managing director of MJUnited Plumbing and Drainage, he came into my training and his turnover was $750,000 when I looked at his P&L and looked at it for the last 3 years. And yeah, turnover had gone up year to year, but not very much, only about 10% per year. So it was about $680,000 the year before. But net profit margins, they tend to always go down over time. And 98% of businesses, I see a 3-year comparison of their profit and loss statements. When I work with them as clients and advise them, they're typically trending down with net margins year to year. So he was only at 6%, struggling for cash, can't grow his business, can't afford marketing, no time, all these sort of things, because that's the symptoms of a low net margin. He introduced team building, which I talk about with things like disc profiles, and let's run a weekly team meeting. It made his employees happier. Now, that may not sound much, but you probably heard the saying that happy people are more productive. So by teaching him how to run team meetings and introducing disc profiles, all of a sudden he got happier. Like the mechanic, his productivity increased 50%. All of a sudden, for the same wages, you're doing more work. That increases net profit margins. He measured his major gross margins by job and type. So every single job, we said factor in labor as the cost of sale. Let's see your true gross margins. Here's a measuring tool, ready to use, done for you. Let's customize it. That's simple. It takes like 10 minutes to customize it and then start putting your numbers in. And he was like, oh my goodness, I'm making a loss on a whole stack of type of work that I'm doing. I can't make a loss. What am I doing that for? So he stopped doing some work that was making a loss. He saw the high margin work, started emphasizing that with his sales, and then got very clear of the work that was making him high margin. So he started introducing some of the measuring conversion rate strategies I give him as systems, and just said, here, use this system and watch your conversion rates increase. And they did. I saw that his conversion rates weren't very high. I consider anything under 30% on new leads as low, and it should be 40, 45, 50, 55. That's what I've been getting clients to over 19 years with better conversion rate strategies, and his conversion rate for existing clients is only 50%. I said that should be 65, 75, 80, 90, 100. And so by focusing on the conversion rates and increasing the sales, and also counteracting the losses by stop doing some of the work, all sorts of wonderful things happen. I also got him to sell at a minimum gross margin, because very few businesses have a system to sell at a minimum gross margin, including labor. They do with materials, but not labor, so that helped as well. And then focus more on winning high margin jobs with conversion rates and predominantly disc profiling skills. Over the next financial year, because I look at P&Ls for real figures, over the next financial year, his turnover reached $1 million and 50,000. But more importantly, his net profit margin had hit 18% when it was 6% before. So he tripled his net profit margin even though his turnover went up. What he said to me is, I've added $120,000 to my cash in the bank figure in 1 quarter. So following the J-curve growth, not much happened in the first 3 months, but from month 4 to 7, 120 grand increase in his cash and profit in 1 quarter just from doing that. And more importantly, he felt completely de-stressed. He said, I'm not stressed anymore. I don't feel pressured, and my health is declining. He said, I don't even think about my business at home anymore. He said, I go home, I switch off, talk to my wife, have a good night, have a good weekend, and then back to work on Monday. And he said, I don't even think about my business at all from that go home to come back to work. He said, I completely switch off. He said, I've never had that freedom before. He said, it's like my business owns me. I don't own it, it owns me. He said, I don't have, he said, that's been the best thing out of your course. He said, yeah, the money in the bank's nice. He said, the staff are happier, but the fact I'm not feeling like I'm working all the time at home and can't turn off, he said, that's the best thing. He said, that was the best thing you did for me. So it's a wonderful outcome, and it's not the first time I've heard that. I had a lot of clients that have said, I just don't think about my business anymore. It's like, it's running, it's predictable. I see that three-legged stool bar graph. He said, I see it and go, oh yeah, well, that's obvious. Yep, I know what the business is doing, and yeah, I'm already doing it, and yeah, I got my finger on the pulse of the growth. That's awesome. That's the sort of outcomes I love to hear from clients. It's like their business is running without them. Working is optional because it's predictable. You can go, I can take a week off, take a couple of weeks off, look at the numbers so I don't need to be cool. I'm taking 2 weeks off. Go and have some fun, have a holiday. Haven't been here before, I think I'll go there. All that sort of fun stuff happens when you get all this in place. So the 7 key ingredients of an autopilot business. Now, unfortunately, a lot of business owners, what they're looking for is the opposite direction of an autopilot business. They're often saying, I need more leads, I need more sales, I can make more cash. So I say, how many leads are you getting now? I'm not sure. What's your conversion rate? Pretty good. I'm not getting definite answers. So I found I need to measure to find the profit leaks and the profit opportunities before I talk about sales and marketing. So that's step 3 before I get anywhere near step 6. I've found that from measuring, then you can do accurate, very predictable growth of your business and plan to hit your profit goals of double or triple the net profit, add $100,000 or $500,000 your net profit. And I give people the tools on how to plan to achieve those sort of goals. And while you're measuring, you need to get some systems in place for the next person you need to hire before you need to hire them. If you try and put systems in after you've hired them, you'll pull your hair out. If you put systems in before you hire them, it's like, awesome, fantastic. Gee, that saved me weeks and weeks of time because I've got a system in place. So before I talk about the explosive growth that I can put into businesses with sales and marketing strategies, I want them to do 3 other things before that. Before I introduce measuring now, I want everyone to be happier about the thought of being quantified for their activity, because some employees resist being checked up on, and I have to do this and that's annoying, I don't like doing it. So I found I need to often introduce a happiness strategy to make the employees happier, and that's the team building step. I found that by doing the team meetings of running disc profiles, talking about disc profiles, running team meetings, getting everyone together once a week and having a chat, they become far more receptive to the measuring that is necessary to find the profit leaks and opportunities to plan to grow the business. So team building comes before measuring, and to get team building and getting employees motivated, we've got to motivate you, business owner. And how do we motivate you? Clarify your vision of what you can definitely achieve in your business in the next 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years. And I found by working with business owners to document that, they start to get excited. They start to get more confident, especially when I give them some input on what sort of things they can achieve and when. And I found that enthusiasm, some of those goals that we set in the vision building session goes into the team meetings. They get fired up. The staff go, oh, we're going somewhere. We're achieving a goal. Fantastic. They get excited. Then we're ready for measuring. Then we're ready for planning, systems, profit growth, sales and marketing. And then the icing on the cake is management, the final phase where you start to step out of your business and it starts to run on autopilot. And sometimes with or without a manager. Sometimes you can just step out and take a month off and you don't even need a general manager. You just need someone that you can trust to put some numbers in spreadsheets or in measuring tools, and that's it. So that's the 7 steps. That's the formula that I've developed, and I've found that if you do any of these out of order, you get some result, but you don't get long-term J-curve, add millions of dollars to your turnover year after year type of results that I've watched my clients achieve over the years. Let's talk about a shortcut if you want to go on the autopilot journey. You may or may not, that's up to you, but I love shortcuts. I don't know about you, but I love taking years of learning, and often painful, expensive learning out of a journey to success. So you can spend years learning about people, measuring, systems, integrating all three, which is what management and McDonald's have mastered over decades, and then spend years developing, testing, and refining all the measuring tools and reports you need, because you need a lot of measuring tools in a lot of different areas of your business to be generating a lot of KPIs to make you comfortable to step out of your business. So you could do all this yourself if you're not in a rush, and you could pay a dozen experts, or at least 3 or 5, because you need so many experts in so many areas to set all this up, and determine the KPIs for all your employees. So what are the KPIs for a salesperson, for a marketing person, for an admin person, for a bookkeeping person, for your tradie or technical people, all those sort of things. And more importantly, what are the KPIs for a general manager and a job description? Have you got all those? Or are you happy to spend years and years or paying tens of thousands of dollars for other people to help you to get all this? Or you might like to take the shortcut, because that's what I'm about, shortcutting that process. All businesses need similar people skills, measuring methods, systems, and good strategies, especially if you want to set yourself up to have an autopilot business. So instead of expensive one-on-one coaching, which is what a lot of people think that's what I still do, I don't do coaching, which is one-on-one hourly rate based discussions, an hour a week, and then I give you lots of data and then you got to go and create a whole lot of stuff. I do not do that. I've found that by finding the commonalities that all businesses have, and those 7 ingredients are what all businesses need to go through and learn, I can put that into a group training with done for you systems, and then train people on how to use the systems that have already been created. And there is some one-on-one time included that obviously needs to be when we start talking about your chart of accounts, how to customize that to give you far more meaningful reports. And it's just simply smarter, faster, and more affordable to put people into small groups of training. So that's what I do. Introducing the Academy of Business Mastery, that's what I've put together. It's a training course with 9 workbooks with instructions I guarantee you'll be reading for years, because every client that I've talked to that has been through my training course 2, 3, 5 years later, they're still opening and reading their workbooks. Maybe not all of them, but they're definitely opening and reading them because they find them reference material for that next phase of their business they may not be at yet, or what's the best disc profile of a supervisor? I better read the workbook. What's it say again? Things like that. It's just a reference material that you'll go back to. So with 9 workbooks, complete systems, 155 proven strategies, and training to increase your net profit margins, set your business up to run on autopilot. That's all in the Academy of Business Mastery. It's a result of sheer experience of going through hiring a general manager, and what are the interview questions, what's the job description need to be, what do the KPIs need to be, and watching what we put in place unfold over years to verify the quality of what it is that I'm teaching. So you're getting a shortcut of massive amounts of work with 1,000 business owners over 19 years, and that's all condensed into this training. That's why it's such a good shortcut. So imagine a course where you receive a system for team building through 5 stages, where the 5th stage they ask you not to come into work anymore because they work better without you, and it's true. How to hire great attitude people. The best 155 proven strategies, so they're all documented into a measuring tool or into a tool, and it's got selection criteria, and you can pick the best 50 for you, and I look over that and make sure you found at least 50 that will definitely work for your business. And that's going to keep you busy for about 4 years by just implementing those strategies if you want to implement all of them. A P&L review to work out your minimum gross margin sale prices, and a tool to quote accurately with those minimum gross margin sale prices. And like I say, I've got building companies that are up to $20 million turnover that are using the tools that I've given them. All the measuring tools supplied and customized to measure leads, sales, marketing, production, and cash flow, and my advice included in the training for 3 months after you've implemented them. So strategies for sales and marketing, simple conversion rate strategies at work, how to define your unique selling proposition to stop competing on price. You can't just win on price because someone will always do it cheaper than you. That hurts your margin, that hurts your profitability, therefore it hurts your business running on autopilot. So this is a critical step in learning how to sell at higher margins and have the cash surplus to afford to pay managers and things like that. How to use social marketing, media marketing effectively. A lot of people are just mucking around with it. They got no idea. Like there's certain platforms that work for certain businesses. So I'll talk about which platforms work for your specific business in the training and some of the key ingredients that can waste your time that you want to avoid and which ones will make you money. A spreadsheet to plan the growth of your business and double your profits inside 12 months. And everyone that does my course, I say, well, you need to put your KPIs in, which you already know because we've talked about that. Choose your percentage increase of 7 growth numbers, and I'll talk to you and review it and make sure you can definitely double your profit inside 12 months with where your figures are and where they can be in that time frame. A powerful lead generation strategy that can generate hot to buy leads for free. It's one that I call 90-degree marketing. I've used it in my business extremely successfully to generate over $1 million in sales for 0 cost, like nothing. Not a thing. That doesn't cost me anything. And so few businesses use it. Nearly every business can. So we'll talk about that as well. Included in the course are 9 workbooks full of wisdom to read and refer to for years. 49 done-for-you templates and spreadsheets emailed to you. 7 of the best marketing books I can find. 4 hours of one-on-one individual phone support and unlimited email support. A system for pricing to control your gross and net profit margins at the time of sale. Business profit share calculation spreadsheet, and answers to any and all your questions for the entire 7 months on virtually everything. It's an ideal training environment because we meet for half a day a fortnight, not a full day, not 2 days. They're just data dumps. Anything over half a day is just too much information to absorb or use. So I found that the ideal training time frame is half a day, and then you got 2 weeks to implement 3, 4, 5 tasks that I give you specifically, and they're all in the workbook. It's all systemized. All you're doing is reading the instructions or watching a video on instructions and implementing strategies, and then we review them 2 weeks later and talk about it. So we discuss those specific strategies and what your results are, and then talk about the next level with each of those strategies as well. All sessions are recorded, so you have a full video interaction, and it is an interaction. It's not me just monologuing like it is like a webinar. It is training where we get to talk and discuss your business, your needs, your challenges, and your strategies, and which ones you need to focus on. Here's the value that's included in the Academy. 52 hours of live interactive online training for 1 hour phone and or video calls one-on-one. 7 months of email support with 24-hour responses, 9 workbooks and video training instructions. A complete team building and recruitment system valued at least $5,000 because it's damn near impossible to buy one of those off the shelf. 39 pages of disc profile content for sales, for recruitment, for leadership, for introducing systems into your business and training. 50 plus strategies identified for your specific business and circumstances right now, and a complete suite of management measuring tools that top financial controllers have valued at least $10,000, and that's all included. So no business training program comes close to including all this. Comparing the Academy Business course to business coaching, the value of this course is well over $36,000, because that's the prices charged by quality business coaches that have been in the industry for at least 10 years. In fact, some business coaches I know that started when I did 19 years ago charge $48,000 a year, and it is a year minimum training that they want to work with you for. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 years at $48,000 a year. I'm looking for 3 businesses confirmed with the first payment to join my next training group. Your investment is something that I'd prefer to talk about one-on-one so you see the value of it after I look at the profit potential of your business. After discussing that and seeing if you're eligible, first of all, that you meet some minimum criteria and your attitude's right and you're aligned with what the course is, then we'll start talking about what the price is. But you will be very pleasantly surprised, considering the breakdown of some of those things I just talked about. The value of this course is well over $50,000 if you had to go and buy all these individual tools. And you'll be very pleasantly surprised to know it's way under half of what a great business coach is like, well under that price. So you're not paying those exorbitant prices that you pay for business coaching. The next Academy of Business Mastery kicks off soon. I'll talk to you about the dates when we have a one-on-one chat. The course is held over half-day sessions, as I mentioned, at the same times every second week. Payment is the first month of 7 up front, then every second session for 15 sessions with a break over Christmas, obviously. The first month's payment confirms your place. Now, I don't lock you in with big, lengthy, multiple-page contracts. I believe leadership is about earning the right to lead and constantly being assessed by people that you're instructing. And it's the same with the Academy. Yes, I do want you to say that you will commit to the whole 7 months. Otherwise, there's no point in starting it, because there is a synergy of all 7 steps that integrate and link in together. So yeah, you definitely need to think about committing to the 7 months. However, I have had some people tell me family dramas or problems or issues or something about the course that they didn't want to continue with. I've had to talk to them. They've been reasonable. I've been reasonable. I said, that's fine. Just stop and then come back when you're ready. And I have had people do that. But I've had the opposite, where people have attended the whole course and said, Tim, that was so awesome. 6 months later, they ring me up and said, I've got to do it all again. I'm only using 20% of the content. My profits have gone up $150,000. I can't wait to use it all because I wasn't paying attention. I want to use it all and learn it all again. So the first 3 to get the course spots confirmed by $100 deposit gets to attend in this next training group. Partners can attend for free. I just simply mail you off a couple of workbooks instead of one, because it's the business paying for it, not individuals. So just register your interest now, and all I want to do is have a chat to you about your business. You'll see some nice, simple, basic questions there, a couple of radio buttons. Just fill in your details, put in your name, put in your best phone number so I can contact you, and your website so I can have a quick look at that and just get a feel for what your whole business is about. Then we can talk about your profit potential of your business, because once I ask you a few questions and get to know you a little bit better and understand just some basic KPIs, I can give you an idea of what your true business's profit potential and what sort of goal I think you could achieve in the Academy of Business Mastery. Do you want that Autopilot business 12 months from now? There's some minimum criteria, first of all, for eligibility. 3 years of business experience, ideally, or you must have a great attitude, obviously, and $500,000 minimum turnover. Now, it could be a little bit less, but I really do want you to have 1 or 2 employees working for you so that you can leverage your time and introduce the methodologies that I'm giving you throughout the whole course. If you only have 1 employer or less, I often find it's a very big strain, and sometimes I've let clients in that's been fine. Other times I've said, no, you're not ready. So that means if you're not quite at that criteria, we need to have a chat about that as well. And I will talk about what sort of strategies you can introduce now to get your business to the level of eligibility in the training in 3, 6 months, maybe 9 months time. So express your interest. No payments needed. I'm not asking for any money at this stage because I have to make sure that you're even ready for the course and your business is ready and it fits for you, and I believe you're going to get an awesome result from it so that it becomes an investment, not an expense. So Simply go there, put in your details, and I'll be in contact very, very soon.